Hello, Jen and Nicole, are you there?
Hello.
Gosh, you're
Good
looking.
evening.
I had to wear my
Hey.
shirt just for you, Jen. Who needs freedom of choice? Like, that was my COVID shirt.
So good. Love it.
Yeah, I'm in a bit of a shit stirring mood. I know, Nicole,
Oh,
you like my new profile picture of me next to Mark Zuckerberg anointing
I
myself.
did see that.
Sort of face.
I can't wait. Can't wait to see that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, in this crazy times we're living in, it's certainly good to have a bit of humor. I mean, I have been chatting to people and there's no question definitely in the middle of a very big, what I call economic chaotic time. World Health Organization laws being changed as we speak, which are trying to make it mandatory. I mean, more than ever, you've got to be empowered in your finances, as I see it. So it's so timely what we're doing here. And I've had so many women messaging me saying, oh my gosh, make sure we get the replay. And I've been getting like constantly requests for the replay, but they can't come. So I think we're definitely on.
So good.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to hand over to you and let you take it because obviously it's about helping
Okay.
women get financially empowered. And today you're talking about the money code. Is that correct?
Yep. We'll finish off where we take off from where we started last week. Yep. Awesome.
Okay. I think we'll start on this one again, hey, because
Yep.
it's just a really key concept in the whole money code piece, one for us to really get. So I guess maybe even for those who are, if you haven't watched the replay of the first one, I'd suggest start there for sure, just so that this particular chat makes sense as well, because this is like the second half of it. But ladies, you might remember that we dove into the fact of that we're working with a couple of things, right? It's like there's the mechanics, which are really a lot of the how-tos. And sometimes, like I remember, I think I got to a point where I was so sick of someone telling me it was my mindset that I was rolling my eyes going, just tell me what to do. Like I'm done with the mindset stuff. There was so much resistance to it, but it is truly like a builder, a carpenter with all of the tools ready to go and no skills and no way to use them. So it's the mindset stuff has to come in, and it's just such a big part of it. So we covered that. We went through the money codes, which was ideally this is stuff you worked on. I can't see the chat section, but let us know if you did watch last week's conversation, and then if you did this work and really just sat and answered these questions and even just got present throughout your day. You know, like we said, when you were going to the checkout and maybe you're going to buy groceries, are you looking for the most nutritious food or are you looking for what's on sale? When you go out for dinner and the tip comes, do you feel resistance because it's like, well, how much can I tip and do I have to tip, or do you feel the generosity? Like there's all these different indicators that we have which are showing us, hey, this is how you're coded. This is some programming going on. This is what your default is. And so we went through the indicators, and then we spoke about the cycle, which is really understanding, like, how does this whole thing even work? Like, how did I even get these thoughts? Why do I even think these thoughts? Are these thoughts even true? Where did they come from? And so we really started on this one and ended on this one, but I think it's powerful, Jen, if we just want to retouch on this, because it kind of makes everything else make sense as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing about this little diagram is our beliefs are like the air that we live in. So there's such a part of us that we believe them to be the truth of the world. And so if you imagine, we don't really notice the air, right, as we move around through the day. But if we jump in the water, we feel the resistance of the water, just as the fish, if he jumps out of the water, he's flapping like crazy because suddenly he doesn't have the resistance of the usual medium. But I'm sure when the fish is in the water, he doesn't feel the water That just feels like normal to him, just as the air feels normal to us. And beliefs are like that. They sit there and we don't even realize they're beliefs. We just think that that's the way of the world, but it's not the way of the world. It's the way of our world, and our beliefs are creating our thoughts. And in turn, our thoughts are creating our feelings. Our feelings create our actions create our results. And then our results reinforce our beliefs. And so we go around in this circle. And when we get to a point where we decide that we want to change, whether we want to change our financial situation, whether we want to change our health, whether we want to change our relationships, whatever it is we decide we would like to change, typically we go to the actions part and we say, Warren, show me how to do something different with my money. Or we say, Nicole, show me how to do this business. Or we go for the actions. It's like, what can I change? What can I do? That's our natural first go-to. And the problem with that is, if we don't work on our beliefs, we tend to keep hitting the same wall. We tend to keep bringing it undone. And we're so programmed by the world, and we all through our life, we're like, if you even think about the cartoons that if you're I mean, Nick's a bit younger than me. I'm sure she watched different cartoons. Warren and I might have watched the same cartoons, right? Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner. Like, if you think about if you think about the Titanic, if you think about Batman, all of the big blockbuster movies, the rich people were the greedy assholes every single time. And the poor people were the generous, amazing, happy ones. Like, think about the Titanic as it sank. The poor people, well, just before it sank, they were down having a party, dancing, having the best time ever. There was so much love, while the rich people were up on the top floor, and the poor little kid basically got his hand whacked because he used the wrong oyster fork. It's just this subliminal messaging at us all the time that creates our beliefs around money. And then those beliefs are creating our bank account. End of story. And if we're willing to challenge our beliefs and to take a good look at them and to kind of take them out, imagine our brain is full of like cassettes or CDs, DVDs, whatever you want to think about. Imagine we've got to see what they are, pull them out, and then replace them with a belief that's going to serve a different result, a result that we want. So that's really what's going on with that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Want to add anything to that, Nick?
I'd love to ask, is there anyone on this call who is like me and you're super logical? So I just the last thing that I want to add on this, because I'm a very logical person, but awesome, I can see a hand raised. But I also know that what I can't see is so much more powerful than what I can see. And we can find evidence of that all the time. And I know last week we spoke about magnets. When they're held the wrong way, they repel. When they're held the right way, they attract. Electricity. Like, I would be in the dark right now doing this call if it wasn't for electricity. Now, I can't see the electricity, but I know it's true because I see the power and the result of it. And this is the same thing. And I just know the feeling of continually going for the action and the result. And it can feel quite deflating and quite defeating if you just continue to tap that part of it, because you're missing out on this whole other world that when we say those examples, they're true. They're so true. So just know what we can't see is usually so much more powerful than what we can see. So that's all I want to say on that, because I think sometimes we can go, yeah, got it. I don't know. Have a look at your results. Do you have it? And even just like every day, because I think, and this kind of takes us into the next part of it, Jen, which is the coding. So how do we even get programmed? Like, how do I think how I think? How does Jen think how she thinks? How does Warren think how he thinks? Why could it be the same? Why could it be different? Why could you give us one word, say money, and someone has a negative, resistant feeling and thought, and someone else has an excited, creative feeling and thought? Same thing, just a whole different response system. And so it's really understanding how coding is done, because it makes up your programming. And I think truly 95% of people aren't aware of this. They aren't aware that we're all coded. We're all just like a system that's being coded from what we've heard, what we've experienced, and what we've witnessed. And remember, like when we're young, when we're kids, we don't have the filtration system yet. So we're just like picking it up, and we're just the meaning making machine as the child. So if mum and dad always fought and money was the reason, money causes fights. Right? Like there's things where it's like as a child, that filtration system isn't there. It's just picking up everything, and it is coding us, which does form our programming. And I wanted to mention, so again, like every time I do these calls, I'm like, oh, what's the thing? What are conversations going on today? And I actually went into my call notes that I've been having with women in the last couple of weeks. And Jen, you'll be the same, and Warren, you'll know this as well. Like it's really easy to identify someone's code. They may not know it, like you might not be aware of it, but chat with one of us and I bet we can see it, because it's in your language, it's in how you answer a question. So a lot of women that I'll chat with, and I was reading the notes and I'd say, what's the number that would help you breathe? Now, what's the number that would help you have the life you love? And often they don't know the number. Well, that's very telling. That tells me something. I'll have people say just $100, maybe $200. I don't need a lot. I just want enough. Okay, that's really telling of something going on. Like, let's just have enough. I don't want to be greedy. I'll just get breathing and surviving. If I ask the question, how long will it take you to make $1 million? Some women are like, I've never made it. Therefore, I'm never going to. I don't think I will in my lifetime. Other women will say, 2 years. Neither is true, because neither has happened. But that's the programming that produces the thought. And so it's there, it's evident, even like more money, more problems. Bang, okay, there's a clue. It's like, I don't need too much. I don't want to come off as being greedy or having more than I need. Like there's all of these things. And I think if we just don't operate like the 95%ers, because remember we spoke about last week, we've got to go a hard stop to low standards, because they are helping with the broken system that we have right now. And we have to go, hey, I'm now aware. Now am I going to accept it or choose different? And I think that's a big part of this. And I know Jen will probably go into that conversation. But I thought maybe, because I feel like what's worked out really well on these calls is us kind of doing it with you, like getting your pen to paper. And after this call, we're going to send you through the workbook as well, because the money code element will be completed. So there will be a workbook, but just start now. Start while we're in the conversation. Start while it's fresh. And let's go through some of these experiences, maybe Jen, just so that we can do this work together and see what pops up.
Well, I think that there is no more important, if you want to change your financial situation, there is no more important process than this, figuring out these codes and figuring out the recoding process, because everything else, you'll just keep hitting the resistance. You'll just keep undoing anything that you do create. It'll just keep going down the gurgler. And until we become aware of the untruths that are sitting inside us and our need to unlearn them, then we can't possibly move forward. Or we may move forward temporarily, but then we'll move backwards really quickly again. And I remember, and I think I mentioned it last week, we have this conversation a lot though, so I'm not sure. But I grew up thinking that it was greedy to want more than I need, until a mentor said to me, Jen, if you only ever earn just enough to look after yourself and your immediate family, isn't that selfish? And I said, and I looked at him, I still remember going, wow, like it felt like a bit of a punch in the gut, and like this massive realization, because I don't want to be the person who only ever looks after myself. I don't want my whole 80 years just only to be about me just managing to get by and just looking after the ones who are super close to me. I want to make a difference on this planet. I want my life to count for something, for more than just putting food in my own mouth. And so it really hit me, and it really made me start to think about what other beliefs do I have that are really limiting or limiting the ability of money to come to me. And another one was when people get rich, they turn into assholes, or that, you know, all rich people are greedy. And that's not true. Money just makes us more of who we are. So all rich people aren't greedy assholes at all. Many wealthy people do incredibly good things in the world. And I know Warren works with a lot of those people. And they're, you know, they get to a point where there's enough money. It's like what am I really here for? What's my soul's purpose? It's to give back. It's to contribute. It's to make a difference. It's to leave the world a better place. It's to leave a legacy.
I have to say one thing.
And
Do you mind if I say something?
yeah,
On that money code,
of course not.
it could be so simple. One of my ones that I discovered working with a mentor a few years ago, what stopped me really accelerating my own wealth, was my thing was all rich people will eventually get targeted by the government, and I don't want that drama. And that was actually in my mind. And once I got on top of that and thought, what's the benefit of that? Well, being in the media, they'll talk to me. The one time I was splashed all over the media 7 years ago, the Panama Papers, my business exploded. I thought, okay, well, if we get targeted by the government, it's probably a good thing. And even and as long as I'm set up legally, I'm fine. And then after that, it changed. But that was actually a sabotage that was in me for like years, which I didn't even know was there. Just thought I'd throw it in there for you.
Yeah, and that's a great example of a story that we carry that we don't realize we're carrying, and you know, unless we're willing to peel off the layers of an onion. And I can remember another time where I rescued a horse that had been abused, and a lady bought it in a float, and I wasn't there at the farm when she delivered it, and my dad was. And when I got home, I was standing and leaning on the fence with my dad and looking at this horse, and I said, Dad, how come the float's still in the paddock? And he said, oh, it broke down and we've got to, you know, get it fixed. And he said, oh, you know, she wouldn't have a cent to her name, that lady. And I said, actually, I know her. Her daughter's one of my best friends, and her mum earns about $350,000 a year. She's got plenty of money. And he turned to me and he said, you'd never know it. She's just so nice. You know, and it was like, wow, like that's the money code that has been delivered to me. Like, you can't be wealthy and nice. Those two things don't go together. And I was like, oh my goodness, but they do. Plenty of really wealthy people are really nice, generous, incredible, amazing people who do incredible things in the world. And so it's just, it's like peeling back these layers of an onion, and you just don't know they're there until you peel back another layer and it just hits you. And so I was doing some work with a group of people last night, and so many people were saying, but I've worked on all my money stuff. I don't have any money stuff. I'm like, well, look at your bank account, because that's the indicator of whether you have any money stuff or not. And if your bank account isn't excessively overflowing with abundance, you got some money stuff, right? You just do. You just haven't found it yet. You can't see it. And as Nick said, someone else will be able to see it a lot more quickly and easily than you. But we've got some work for you to do, and that's really going to help.
Yeah. And I think even like if you're up for it, even let's just share in the comments one thing that comes to mind for each of these, because as you start doing it, it actually becomes quite funny. Like when you start writing down, oh, this is what I heard and actually what I've believed. Oh, wow, this is the environment I grew up in, and it actually started forming me. Jen, as you were sharing them just then, I thought of, I think it was the end of last year. I was with my parents and we're walking along Hedges Avenue on the Gold Coast, $1 million lane. And it's so funny. So my mother's comment was, they must be your drug dealers or something. They in gangs? Like, who owns homes like this? Like, that's her response, right? So she's like, they must be in gangs. That, like, basically saying you have to be, you know, an arms dealer or a drug dealer. So ultimately, what does that mean? That means if you earn a lot of money, you've done something bad. Like you have to be corrupt in order to earn money. My dad then sparks up and goes, Mandy, no, homes like that are from people who have built incredibly big businesses and sold them. Completely different story of what this result was in front of us. And you start like hearing and witnessing all of these things when the first thing you become aware of it. And it's like, oh, I wonder how that's played out for me. So let's, if you're up for it, what's something that you've heard? What's something that you do hear? And maybe it's just in your environment now. Like maybe it's a group, your group. Sorry, Jen.
I was just going to say, sorry, Nick. So Nolene's just written in the chat. So I don't know if you can see the chat, but Nolene is just sharing when she was little, she could never save money. She loved to spend it. So she was always told she was hopeless with money.
Yeah.
Such a great example.
You must be made
of money.
Yeah. Vicky, I remember the money doesn't grow on trees, Nicole. And so that can easily have me think, oh, don't ask. Like, don't ask for too much. We can't afford it. Yeah, question for you, ladies.
Yeah, we can't afford it. We have to work hard for money. Nick, you had a good you had a good story around the hard, didn't you?
Yeah, so, and I think, it's come up with a few of the ladies in the last week, Jen, in our Women to Wealth method, this conversation around the hard and earning it. And for me, I might have shared it last week, but my parents taught me work ethic, which I'm so grateful for. They were always in business. Actually, all of my family, like uncles and everyone, which again, I start realizing everyone was in business. It was like, oh, that makes sense as to why I naturally went that way. But they worked so incredibly hard, which I'm grateful for. I learned work ethic. But I also made it mean, because remember, meaning making machine, that unless you work hard, you aren't worthy of a result. It has to be hard. Otherwise, you shouldn't have the rewards. And it's not that my dad told me that. It's just that that's what I made the experience mean, because he would work 6 days a week. They would, someone would have to pick me up from school. They went into a new business, which was a cafe, a fish and chip shop. So I'd always go home with Nen and Pop. Like they wouldn't put me to bed on certain nights because they're out working. And so there's a beautiful side of that with work ethic and paving your way, but then there was the story side. And, as we've written here, you are not your stories. You just have stories. I just made the story up. And so it had me, JC was working hard, conditioning. Yeah, it had me like throughout my 20s. I remember being up at like 2 a.m., 2:30, just continually working because I'm like, if you don't do this, you're not valuable. You're not valuable. My value and my badge of honor was really attached to hard. What about what you experienced? So there's what we heard, and then like, what about what you experienced? Were you maybe the poor kid in the rich circle of friends? Or were you the rich kid with the kind of poor group of friends? And maybe either way, you experienced something. What did you see happen with money? What did people do with money around you?
And Antonella's sharing her Italian cultural upbringing is you don't need to invest or buy property. The man you marry will provide all for you. Had to work the dowry for when I got married. Oh my gosh, thank God I divorced him. Big cultural shift, but still working through the conditioning to money. Yeah, and this is why the fastest growing rate of homelessness in Australia is women over the age of 55, because they get to 55, they've spent their life raising their family, and their husband either dies or leaves for someone else, and the women are left with nothing, just literally nothing, and having to start at that point to learn how to create some money so that they don't have to live under a bridge. And knowing that, when Nick and I found this out, we just said we can't stand by and just let that stat be a stat. we have to do something. We have to start talking about money. We have to start making this money conversation okay, instead of just, you know, saying, oh, I don't do numbers, I'm just a girl, or there's so many Facebook groups where women, they kind of make jokes about their shopping habit and how much they spend, and just try and laugh it off. But it's like, it's not, we need to put our big girl pants on, right? Because this is the real deal. This is our one life. This is the only one that we get. And as we spoke about last week, and for those of you who didn't listen to that call, our standards are declining so fast. Our standards have fallen through the floor, and the percentage of people who are unhappy, unhealthy, and broke is increasing rapidly. And so the big question is, at what point are we going to put a hard stop to this decline, to this slippery slide ride that we're on? 70% of people are unhealthy, overweight or obese, or pre-diabetes, or pre-diabetic or diabetic. 70% of people couldn't tolerate a 1% increase in their mortgage. It would cause them dire straits and dire financial difficulties. This is not okay to live this way. When we live in a first world country and we have unlimited access to resources and we can learn anything that we want to learn, this is not okay. When are we going to call a hard stop? When we get to 95% of people overweight and obese, when we get to 95% of people who can't tolerate a 1% increase in their mortgage payment? What, 99%? When's it going to be? And so all of us, it's our job to stand up and to say no more. We're going to educate ourselves. We're going to learn what we need to know. We're going to change the way that we think so that we can create more than enough, so that we can tolerate, we can create a buffer zone. And Nick and I believe that every woman and men, we're not just crazy feminists. We love boys too. We both have, Nick's got a boyfriend, a soon-to-be fiance, and I've got a
Jen's organising the engagement, just so everyone knows.
And the wedding.
Not the engagement party, the proposal.
Yes, I've got that all sorted, don't worry. And, and I've got an amazing husband who I absolutely adore. But we believe every woman should have a 100K runway. Some of the women that we work with, they have to ask their husband if they're allowed, if they can spend $500. Like, how is that okay? They don't know where the money is. And what happens if something happens to him? So this is it. This is our life, ladies. And we can make it what we want it to be. And that's what we're all about.
Love that. And I just want to acknowledge everyone. I've been reading through them as you've been chatting, Jen. So is it Holia and AU and Ginny, Jan, Rach? Yeah, everyone. Thank you for sharing that. And this is the important stuff, right? This is like, it's so there. It's in front of us if we're just brave enough to take a look and then choose differently, which is what we're going to go into. But Jen, I feel like, so as you were speaking then, it was funny because I went through, how I said I went through and I just read the notes of sales calls I had. And I don't know about anyone, but I think we have to get to a stage where we just get pissed off. Like, it actually pisses me off that when I chat with women, and I've got some of my notes here that was saying, I just don't want to wake up in panic. I feel like I'm going paycheck to paycheck. I can't breathe. I just want to be able to look after my kids. I don't know how I'm going to get them through university. Like, majority of people, we can make fun and share. And trust me, I'm a meme lover. I love humor, 100%. But when women are, and not even just women, when people are one shitty situation away from being broke and homeless, I think we've got to take a bit of a look and do this, because most people are like, one, crappy situation away from being on the streets. And, you know, when you walk down, like I'm in Sydney, and all around the world, you know, you see people on the street and you assume what their story is. But a lot of people are very close to that. Very close. That's where our standards are at. That's where the situation is. And, you know, we spoke about last week that as women, like we are the nurturers and the creators. We have all of the answers. We have the resources. We have the dreams. We have the intuition. We have the ability. We have it all in us if we just tap in instead of tapping out and listening to all the crappy stories and all the bullshit standards. And so, Warren, I'm sure you sometimes swear, so apologies if not. But it's like we just got to
never. I'm a pure holy guy, and I'm absolutely horrified at the thought you could
a pure holy strip dancer. Totally.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, you guys like normal, you got husbands and all that, and then I'm kind of feeling a bit left out here. I'm single, I'm a pole dancer. I don't know what you'd call me, but anyway.
I think one of our ladies this week called you adorable, Warren.
Yes, she did.
Oh, that made my day. Whoever that was, I just about want to give him all kinds of free stuff now because that was just the best.
I love that. Okay.
I have to say one quick thing on the money code.
Yeah.
There's a lady called Catherine Ponder who ran a church in the 1940s, which had a very prosperous church. And she made this amazing comment that's become my mantra. She said, whenever you see cost of living rising and expenses increasing, give thanks to God, but you're getting an invitation to raise your financial consciousness because God never has any limitations on money. And I love that. And I taught that to my kids, and even with one of my sons when he wasn't making any income for a while, because our business, we actually, one of our companies I run, I put on hold for a few months. I said to him, how do you get money in that time? He goes, I just did what you said, and I got led to go and do sports betting. So I was just placing bets on the betting, using energy reading on what was the team, and didn't even follow sport, and I was making money on that. And he said, and that just made me enough money. And then once the business started, I stopped doing it, you know, because he said there's plenty out there, isn't there? And I just like love it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. This is another belief that I had, that if I had more, then someone else must have less. And it took me a long time to figure out that it's not a zero-sum game. There's plenty of money to go around. And probably if I have more, it doesn't mean some other good person will have less. One of those rich, greedy assholes who does exist, who is trying to, you know, kill people en masse, they will have less. And that's a good thing, right? So the more money that the good people have, the sooner the world becomes a better place. We have to step up. If you have a big heart, you have to step up. You have to become wealthy. This is how we change the world. If you don't like how the world is, then we have to do better. You know, my brother said to me once, "What if all the millionaires just gave more money, then we could fix all the issues in the world?" And I said, well, if you feel so strongly about that, why don't you become a millionaire? You know, because we all can, because this is just a learnable skill. Everything is learnable and everything is figure outable. If you can spend 4 years doing an apprenticeship and learn how to become an electrician, and at the end of 4 years, wire a whole house and not electrocute yourself, you can learn anything. You know, I went to university. The day I started, I didn't even know what an arm bone was called. 4 years later, I can crack your neck and get rid of your headaches and you're still living. That's how fast we can learn. We have these big brains. So you too can learn, just as Nick and I have, to create multiple 6, 7-figure a year incomes. It's very learnable if you're willing to learn.
Okay, next exercise, ladies. For those of you who are up for it, and I'm going to say all of you are up for it because you're on here, but this is, we got to unhook, because, you know, I'm reading all of the comments and you can read everyone's as well, and maybe spend the night and continue to do the, what did I hear? What did I experience? What did I witness? It's kind of like, it's like a bad relationship. Like that's what I think of. Like if my partner made me feel that way, treated me that way, restricted me to that point, it's like game over. Like I am unhooking from that relationship. I would break up with them. Yet so often we just go through our life just keeping this code, keeping this programming, not unhooking from it. But it's like, no, we can unhook that wiring. Like that's not it anymore. And I just hope that you get to the point where you go, because then I hope that you can see right now, like you can choose. You just continually get to choose and get to decide again and again and again.
Well,
But
actually, Nick, we already are choosing. Right. So, and this is the big thing to get. And this is hard for some people to accept what I'm about to say. But our life is the sum of the choices that we've made. And we are choosing. Our current situation is a reflection of the choices that we've made, the choices that we continue to make. And sorry to interrupt, Nick, but we can choose differently. And I'll let you go back on to where you were going with that. We can choose differently.
so with this, it's really just sitting with yourself and really asking yourself, how is my current way of believing and thinking, how's it treating me right now? Like, what has it stopped you from doing? What has it stopped you from dreaming about? What has it stopped you from feeling, or what has it made you feel? What has it stopped you from creating? Because that's just not for me. Couldn't possibly. What has it stopped you from actioning? Emotion is our biggest connector. So this can all make logical sense to all of us. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But if you're not emotionally connected to why this is not okay anymore, you're not going to have that big force to move. And so we start here first, because it's like, you know what am I going to unhook from? What is this shitty, bad relationship? Like it was a boyfriend. How is it treating me? What is it stopping me from living, experiencing, doing, and feeling? If you do want to share, feel free to. Otherwise, we're going to send a workbook so that you can do this in your time anyway. But this is the unhook step. And then, do you want to know how to recode? Like what to do? Because we're not just going to leave you hanging. Because it's like, right, all of that's done. Now what do we actually do? Yeah, Carol, it stopped you from living the life you dream of. Yeah. For now, to this point. Traveling. So it's pretty funny, right? Because it's actually pretty simple. So the way that we've been programmed is the way that we reprogram. It is literally what we now choose to hear and put ourselves around, what we experience now, what we witness now. And so this is something, and I don't know if I can ever hammer it home enough, because some people still refuse to get it or accept it or invest in it or just go all in with this, is a new environment. It's like, I really want to transcend my results. I really want this. I really want to go here. But hey, I'm just going to stay here in what I see, in what I hear, in what I experience. It's like there's a complete disconnect. This is it. Transcending results is you transcend your environment. Like when we just overload the inputs, like overload them, tip the scales. No, now you're going to have conversations with people like Warren and Jen, and you're going to get in our space, and we're going to talk about what's possible, and we're going to talk about reframing how you see money, and we're going to talk about you starting your business and about where you want to travel and how you're going to connect the dots to make that happen. And it all actually helps transcend you. You know, I think about when and it was a job that I'm so incredibly grateful for. I started working with a business coaching company in my early 20s. I never went to university, never studied business, had never stepped into business. And I do remember the CEO saying to me, there was something that she liked or something that she's seen in me, but she said, Nick, I don't care what you've done. I care what I can help you become. I know what you need to learn. If you're open to it, I will show you what you need to learn. But what happened is over those 4 years, I would sit in rooms and I would watch coaches present, and I'd watch them coach, and I'd listen to the conversations, and then I'd sit across the table from business owners, and I'd get to understand their world. And then over time, it was like I was just talking like a business owner. I'd go on the stage and I'd present. I just knew what to do with my hands. I was like talking about the future, bang, go this way, talking about the past, bang, go that way. People were like, oh, have you done a training course? I'm like, no. I was like, and I had to think, I'm like, I didn't do a speaking course. No, I was around people who did it as a profession. It's just who they were and what they did for 4 years. And that was just my inputs. So naturally, my outputs, they came and they matched. And even a more simple example, you know, they say if you want to learn a language, the fastest way is go to the country, immerse yourself. Like if I want to learn Japanese, the fastest way would be move to Japan. Be around it, because I would hear the language, I would see the body language, I'd connect the words, all of that. And this, I think it's just so massively undervalued. And so many women that we work with, they will not invest in this because, hey, that's a cost. I think we need to start asking, what's the cost if we don't? Like there's a huge cost not being in this and just changing every single input and outweighing the old ones. We have to do that as fast as we can. And you'll know this. Think of those experiences yourself. You've had them. It's who you're around. It's what they breathe into you. It's what they say. It's what they do. It's how they show up. It rubs off every single time. Jen, what would you love to add here? What would you love the ladies to?
I think that's the only thing to add is how scary it can be to move from one, what I call a cave, into another cave. But we must, because our dreams, the life that we want to design, sits outside of the cave that we're currently in. But our ego is protecting us and wants to keep us safe. And it tells us all sorts of stories about how if we step out of the cave, we may not survive, and we definitely may not thrive. And all of the other people in the cave, they don't want us to step out of the cave either, because that kind of makes them feel bad if we leave the cave. Why is she leaving the cave? And so just to know that as we choose to move from one environment to another, so that we can change our programming and really find the evidence for and really cement our new programming, just to know that there will be internal resistance from our own mind, and that our monkey mind will be telling us, oh, don't go out there, it's scary out there. Oh, don't go over there, it's scary over there. Better to stay here, better to stay safe. Like it might be shitty, might feel like a jail cell, your current life, but at least you're still alive. That's the monkey mind that will be in our head. But also there will be an external pull. It's like, imagine a crab crawling out of the bucket, and all the other crabs are like scrambling to pull that crab back in the bucket. So I just wanted to add that in, Nick, just to be ready for the resistance, which will come at you from all angles. And it's completely normal. It's completely part of the process.
Yeah. I love that. I think as well, Jen, like it's just, and just to acknowledge everyone who is on here, because I don't know, we're in a society where we're kind of used to just watching 15-second clips and that's it. And so taking the time to sit and feel the resistance is kind of part of the process, because no one gets to that level of depth these days, unfortunately. And so even being on this call, you know, spending an hour with us, I love that you are women who do that, because most people don't have the attention span these days. And, you know, our best life is kind of depending on us to do this work and to sit with it and go through that resistance and feel that resistance, and not just, you know, like a Instagram reel, click to the next thing, click to the next thing. So we've got to sit with this one. Okay, let's do recoding steps, Jen. Like, so this one here, again, it'll be in your workbook. But these are the steps to really, and it kind of sums up the whole money code training of what to do to identify it, become aware of it, break it down, rebuild it. That's ultimately what we're doing, right? We've got the code, and then it's like, I'm going to unhook from that one, recode a new one. So Jen, how do you want to do this? Do we want to just go through each one and maybe give some examples of what it is? And maybe you ladies can just take some notes or start writing the answers that are coming up for you.
Yeah, so let's just look at this as a process, and it's really important that you complete each step of the process. And so first step is acknowledging what it is. What is the belief that's not serving you, or not serving you to get, and this is, again, this is where it gets a bit tricky, not too tricky to sort out, but it gets a bit tricky because we can have a belief that's not serving us, improving our financial situation, but that same belief is serving us in a way, or we wouldn't hold on to it. But typically it's serving us by keeping us safe in the cave of what we already know. And there's a beautiful quote that Nick and I love, and it goes along the lines of we're either choosing the illusion of safety or security, the illusion of safety or security, or we choose the responsibility of freedom. And there's a lot in that one, right? Because yes, it's kind of like, wait, what do you mean? There's responsibility that comes with freedom. Like, I mean, I want to feel free. I don't want to have these responsibilities, but there are responsibilities that come even before freedom, as well as with freedom. And security and safety, this thing that we're clinging to, is an illusion, because it can be taken away at any point in time. And many of us experienced that over the last 3 years. That was the gift of COVID, right? If we could see it as a gift, which is hard to do, but it really gave us a shake up and made us realize that things aren't as certain as they may seem. And so first is acknowledging, what is the belief? What is the one I want to dig up and chew on and spit out? And how is it not serving me in creating abundance, in allowing me to design my own life exactly how I want to design it? And maybe how is it serving me, and why am I wanting to hold on to it? So that's number one. Next step is identifying the patterns. So doing a little self-audit, and this is just really just elevating our awareness. And at this point, we don't necessarily need to have a fix. It's just step 2 is just having a little bit of a heightened awareness of what are our reactions, what are our actions, what are our habits. Like, I remember driving in the car with my bro one day, and a guy in a Porsche went past really fast, and it was like, I think he just said something like, "Oh, asshole Porsche drivers," and I was like, "Oh, interesting, right? Interesting. Why are Porsche drivers assholes? Like, what's going on there?" So just like, noticing little things like that. What's our automatic go-to that maybe isn't a completely 100% accurate reflection of the truth of the world? Just the truth that we've been holding on to. And then the next bit, the decision. So we either choose to keep it, or we choose to change it. And it's most people, 95% of people will stay the same, because comfort is easy. It's just much easier than change. But change is where the juice is, change is where the fun is, change is where the amazing abundance of life is. It's in the change. Want to add anything, Nick?
So all I want to add, I think you two are going to love this. I'm hoping the ladies do as well. So I was listening to Jordan Peterson today. And so just on this, like the identifying the patterns and the awareness, and obviously, the money code stuff, we've gone through all of that. But ready for this question that he said to ask yourself every single day. said, what remarkably stupid things am I doing on a daily basis to screw up my life? And I was like, what a brilliant question, just straight to it. Like, let's just own it. What remarkably stupid things am I doing on a daily basis to screw up my life? There's your hint. That's what's going on. And not only that, then as you said, Jen, why you're doing it, you'll find the answer when you work out what it is that you're most scared of. You'll find the answer when you work out what it is that you actually truly deeply fear. And that's a different conversation. That's work that, you know, we do on an ongoing basis with our ladies, but it's a big question. And when you get the answer to that, maybe, just maybe, we stop doing these remarkably stupid things on a daily basis. I just thought it was a brilliant question. It's just so relevant with everything, you know, as we go through these steps. So,
you know what's so awesome about that question is even to ask it and be open to it, you have to have a certain level of humility.
Yeah.
And again, so many people, they're just not willing to go there, right? Wait, what do you mean? I don't do remarkably stupid things on a daily basis. That's ridiculous. And then they would dismiss that, right? But of course we are. Because if we don't know it, if our results don't show it. So we must be doing, and remember, our actions do lead to our results. So we must be doing stuff that isn't serving us. Yeah, very cool. Then we got it. Then the fun part, right? So we've done step 1, 2, and 3. We get to step 4. We get to choose the new beliefs. And guess what? The world is our oyster. We can choose whatever beliefs we want to. We don't have to choose the ones that have been pummeled at us over and over and over and over. We just get to choose fresh. Imagine you can choose to believe anything at all.
And
which
Jen,
belief? Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, just a really practical example, like that even is just coming, it's coming up for me in my life right now, is a health example. So I think I've shared with a lot of women, like I've signed up for this health challenge in Sydney. It's called High Rocks and it goes all around the world. And so it's this really cool, like it's this global community and you get to see other people doing it. And I pair up with a friend and it's a big challenge. And there's an 8-kilometer run, like there's a 1-kilometer run in between each of the challenges. Now, what I've been telling myself since I was about 24, because a personal trainer said to me, oh, your body's not really built for running. I was like, I grabbed that and I was like, brilliant, we are never running again. And I was like, I just don't run. I'm not built for running. I'm not a runner. No, don't enjoy it. Don't enjoy it. I get so bored when I run. I'm just bored. All I do is think of the pain. Like that has been now all of my stories. Well, based on my goals, those stories don't work. See how there's a complete conflict? And while we have conflict, that's when we feel like there is no traction. It's completely impossible because the physical world for me is there's my goal, right? I'm just going to, you know, I'll just train. Surely I'll just get the results without passing out or dying. But the non-physical world, right? These beliefs and the stories and things that I've got to choose, I've got to change that. I have to change it because the new belief must support the goal. It must support the vision. And so I just wanted to give you kind of a practical example. So whether it's with your relationship, maybe that's your focus right now. I know we're talking, you know, this is finance and we're talking money, but it matters with everything. If you want a beautiful, joyful, open, caring relationship, but your belief is partners always shit on me and walk away and leave me, you know, we have to choose a different belief that supports, hey, this is the goal from the big vision of my life. And we'll go into that a bit more on next week's call. But that's just a bit of a practical example to go, oh, what can my new beliefs be? Well, make sure, just think about your goals. Now, what belief would be supportive of you moving towards those goals and achieving them? And then you'll come up with some. Jen, sorry, you're on mute.
Thank you. So then next step is seek evidence. So what evidence do you need to seek? And how will you do that? So example here might be last year I was in Croatia and I was on a coaching call with one of my sales team for one of my businesses. And she was saying, people just can't afford this product. And the product she was talking about was about $500. And as she's saying, people, I can't find anyone to afford this product. I'm standing in the harbor in this amazing city in Croatia, in this beautiful island, and these super yachts are just pulling in. And it was just like super yacht after super yacht after super yacht. And there were so many super yachts that they couldn't even pull up and dock themselves. They had to kind of like parallel, and everyone had to climb to get onto shore. They had to walk across each other's super yachts. And there was that much money pulling into this harbor within a 1 or 2 hour space. I was like, there's no shortage of money. You just got to talk to different people. And so there's always the evidence out there to support our new beliefs, but maybe not in our cave. But we will. I can promise you, I can guarantee that you will have to change your cave if you want to change your life. You will have to change your environment so that you can seek the evidence to prove your new beliefs to be true, and then backing up your new beliefs with new behaviors. And as you can see over there, the fast track is to put yourself around people who have the belief system that supports the results that you want. That's the absolute fast track. And that's what I love about mentors and being in a different space where the conversations are different. Okay, I know we're getting close to the hour.
Yeah.
How are we going with
I think yeah, this is really wrapping it up. And I'll just give another example. I mean, I know you ladies have probably got this. I find health just the easiest example, but for the behavior side, it is about sitting and doing this work and truly choosing what new behavior. So remember, the behavior has to support the belief, and the belief has to support the vision, like where you're going. And if all we do is go, I'm just going to like say affirmations, but never change our being, our behavior, again, conflict. So we need congruence. We need congruence from internal, external, internal beliefs, external behaviors. So an example for me would be, at the moment, my behavior has changed from, kind of like 7 a.m. get-ups and it'll be fine and I'll get exercise in when I get it in for the day, to the alarm goes off at 5:20. I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up. That's a behavior. It's something that I've had to consciously choose and do, which supports the belief of you can train for this, you can learn to run, you can learn to run further and faster, and you're going to get your bum there. So hopefully that helps just with, simple examples. Health is a really easy one because I think we all experience health, right? But whatever it is for whatever area of your life you're working on, and right now we're talking about money, that's an example. What are the behaviors? And just even coming up with a list of them. You don't have to do all of them. Choose one. I would work on stacking. Choose one. Make it natural. That's your default, and then add another one in. And that's how we make the change. So Warren, that wraps us up for the money code for the first part of this. So we'll hand it back to you, and we have a workbook with all of this as well. So we'll make sure we get it through to your team, and then this can be sent out with, I know there'll be the 2 recordings for the money code topic.
I'm trying to push my unmute and it wouldn't work. Honestly, it was brilliant. Really. Yeah, I mean, mindset is everything. In fact, I said I'm about to, straight after this, I'm running my Alchemy of Wealth training. And that's all about basically creating an alchemy and how you manifest money. And I said to someone, if I had to give up all my skills and only keep one, it would be the ability to manifest money. I know that when I've been through tough times and I had very little ability to work in that, I just thought, well, I'll just manifest it. And I would literally, things would come to me. even this morning, I did a couple of things and I thought, oh, I feel like manifesting a bit of money. So I just kind of sat down. As I did, I just tuned into a sports game and I thought, I reckon this team's going to win. And I went on it and made a bit of extra cash. And then I did that yesterday. I put a trade on a gold a couple of days ago and things like that, you know. And then just suddenly I discovered some investments I didn't even realize I had, which is embarrassing, but I had forgotten about them. And they were on a crypto wallet and things like that start happening. So the money code is so blooming important. It's one of these things that those who are wealthy know this is critical, but people, you know, cannot understand enough of this. Like learning the money code for myself, studying every book I could, changed my life.
Mm.
So thank you so much.
It's essential.
Yes. So we're looking forward to
Thank
seeing you again next week. And what are we on for next week?
Next week, we are going to talk about the financial independence pathway. So breaking it down, we're going to talk about numbers. We're going to talk a bit about strategies. So we're going to put some of those pieces together because now we've got the mind right. Now we need to, you know, look at some of the mechanics. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you,
Awesome.
ladies. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and giving us an hour of your precious time.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you. We'll see you
See
next
you, Warren.
week.
See
Bye.
you, Jen.
Thanks, everyone. Now, come here, Bob. Bye.
Bye.